We're in the dairy now. This, we believe, was actually the dairy in the original house. And when the County Council took over the site in the 1960s, there's a photograph that may be of this room with some cheese presses in, which obviously would make that absolutely correct. Talking of cheese presses, we have a replica 17th century cheese press here. This is a state-of-the-art machine with a handle that twists down and raises using a screw thread this heavy weight. The weight's important for pressing the cheese as it's been formed, the round of cheese. And the idea is to get all the juices out, all the liquids out, so that it will last longer. It's less likely for it to go off. We've got two work tables here, which are at slightly different heights to each other. So one of them we have for making the butter on. We've got the butter pats here for shaping the butter. We've got little jars up here which would have the butter put in them. It might be slightly salted to make it last longer. It might have herbs in it to make it more flavoursome. We have a lot of these large mixing bowls called pansions, straining spoons, cheese carrying equipment. Of course, you can't have a dairy without the milk. So we have a yoke here. It's a slightly later style of yoke. The original early 17th century ones would be more or less a stick with a hook at each end. But this is where in our world Janet, the dairymaid, would bring the milk over from her father's farm, come into this dairy to make the butter and the cheese for the household. On our lovely deep windowsills, we've got plenty of space for this enormous pansion. Pansions were used from the 16th century all the way through to the early 20th century as the standard farmhouse mixing bowl. Wonderful things. We've got a hole in the wall over here, which would have had a wooden door to make it a pressure-fitted cupboard. And in here, we've got our doff to the superstitions of the time, in that we have a replica witch bottle. This is a Bellarmine jar, or Bartman jug as they're now called, with the bearded face on the front. Inside this, we've got iron nails, we've got feathers, we've got toenail clippings, not mine, I hasten to add. What there would be, of course, in here is then urine as well, usually the urine of the person who thinks that they're being attacked by witches, and then they'd seal the top. So this is then stuffed into this cupboard, the idea being that they would be wanting that bottle to chase away any evil spirits. It's not just witches, any evil spirits, so that their cheese and their butter would be nice and pure and healthy, and they're not going to catch any contagions from it. The big grey thing that you can just see in the corner here is an original cheese press base from this site. It was dug up from the garden. It's actually slightly later there, it's 18th century, so it doesn't really fit in with the 1620s theme. So rather than putting it onto the cheese press, we've kept it as a table, as it seems a shame not to display something that's truly from the site and is telling the site's history of cheese making. In the middle of it, it has what looks like a sniper's target with a hole in the middle, so that all the juices come out of the cheese as it's being pressed. And then there are two rectangular holes either side of that target, which would take the uprights of the frame for the screw thread and the weight. This room actually is slightly later than the rest of the house, in that upstairs, which we'll visit in a minute, and this room are a slightly later extension, so probably early 14th century, and the corner was cut out of the old building's extension, the block at the wing, to make a passway through here. So we've got some stairs that come up from this room to the floor above, and the stairs themselves are not original to the house. They were taken from a house in South Wigston which was being demolished at the same time as the County Council was doing up this house in the 1960s.